The first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects, nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yashika Agrawal, a fourth semester student from DME Media School, and I welcome you to the second session on Careers in Media series. This series is an initiative of the Training and Placement Cell of DME Media School to provide insights to students of fourth and sixth semester about various career opportunities in different fields of media expertise. Today's session will be delivered by Mr. Joy Daniel Pradhan, Communist Specialist, Ministry of Minority Affairs, Government of India. The session will focus on the role of communication specialist in the government. It will elaborate on the career prospects in the government sector and how students should prepare for a vibrant career as communication specialist. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, to introduce the session.
Thank you, Yashika. Today is the second session in the series that we started under careers in media. And since the final year is shortly to pass out, and because the exams are late because of this COVID-19 and all, they might be happening anytime. So there's a time that the institution has an obligation to guide the students, to tell them what all they are supposed to do after they complete their degrees. Either they are joining the industry, then it is necessary to tell them as to what all is happening in different spheres, in different aspects of the industry. Or if they are taking up admission for their higher education, then we are obliged to tell them as to where there are colleges, good colleges within the country and outside universities abroad, wherein they can take admission in different kind of programs, because masters is something which has to be in the specialization. But then whether the students are taking up further studies or they are taking up jobs after having their graduation, the important thing is that there are certain such openings in some such areas which are not commonly known to the students. I mean, there are certain things which everybody knows about, whether it's journalism, advertising, public relations, and all. But then, if we go deep into these things in journalism, for instance, then what all you can do in journalism, whether on the editing side or the reporting side or print or in the electronic media, or even on the digital side. So some intricate things have to be told to the people, and that is how we decided to start this kind of series, wherein we invite the distinguished people from the industry who have an expertise in the area where they are working, and to tell the students what all is there in the store for them. So, I mean, as far as taking up a job, there are two things important. One, that a student has to look into what he or she is good at. Secondly, one must know where the opportunities are. There might be opportunities in an area. You might be not be that good, or you might not be knowing at all. Government communication is one such area wherein there is less understanding among the students. Though I believe few things should be known, and I believe in the session that I took initially, I would have told about this. Wherein, if you are interested in government communication, then obviously you can straight move through the civil services, because the Indian Information Services is part of the allied services, and then You might be working in different media units of the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, in PIB and other units. And then also every ministry, they have their specialized cell, their specialized officers who know how to communicate and what all is to be to be communicated. So these are the areas, and some of my students even asked me that they are interested to join the government communication, and there should be some session on this. So that is why today's session has been planned, and we have one expert to talk about this, Mr. Joy Daniel Pradhan, who is working as a communication specialist in Government of India. So obviously he is the right person. He is an insider of the government communication, and the kind of things which could be told by him to you all will be definitely useful to everybody. So we all will wait for Mr. Pradhan to enlighten us and to tell us all those things which otherwise we do not know, and it will benefit everybody, the teachers as well as the students. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now we'd like to invite Dr. Tina Bora to introduce the guest.
Thank you, Yashika. Mr. Joy Daniel Pradhan, Communication Specialist with Ministry of Minority Affairs, Government of India, has over 11 years of experience in the social development and community media research, leading to an understanding of the need of social and behavioral change communication. Starting his career in 2010, he joined as the Documentation and Communication Officer for Site Savers Kolkata, where he worked on project process documentation as well as documenting the change of the then newly initiated projects with adolescent commercial sex workers in Kolkata on iHealth. Mr. Pradhan has worked with community-based organizations in the Eastern Ghat region of Orissa with adolescent groups of males as well as females on vocational training and land resource rights. Recently, he has been part of teams that have conducted qualitative research with adolescent groups in Uttar Pradesh under the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram scheme. He has also been part of media prototypes evaluation study for Azim Premji philanthropic initiatives in Orissa, which involves interaction with community members and implementers using qualitative research tools to document impact. An alumnus of TIS Mumbai and IIMC Delhi, Mr. Joy Daniel Pradhan currently is with the Ministry of Minority Affairs, where his work involves creating and executing strategies of communications that are contemporary, managing efficient communication loops for the integrated schemes of education and skills being implemented by the ministry, bringing on board different stakeholders from education and skills. We welcome you, sir, to the series on careers in media, wherein students will gain a lot from your expertise in government communication and what skills are required to become communication specialists, especially in the government sector. I'd like to mention to the students that the session will be followed by Q&A, and students are requested to post their questions in the chat box. Over to you, Mr. Pradhan.
Thank you, Dr. Bora. Thank you, Dr. Saxena. I mean, it was really kind of you. I mean, I have actually read a few, I followed you on a few platforms, Dr. Saxena. Thank you, Yashika. So, to be very honest, like a typical government communication person, I have a skill of writing, but I'm not a great speaker. But however, listening to Amrish sir and Tina ma'am, it was really nice and a icebreaker. So I actually prepared my notes well in advance, because then I realized that I usually give the bureaucrats or the ministers talking points. I never script it down fully. But then when there is a press release, I completely write it down or scribe it down and then hand it over. So thank you for this platform. I really look ahead to learning from, there is a very fancy word, pedagogy of constructive learning, which we used to use back in the days of TISS. So I really look forward to learning from each one here. Faculty member, senior faculty members, and the people, the young scholars who are ready to get into the industry of communication, because we all will be contemporaries in a few days. We all will be competing with each other for the same positions, I guess. That's how it works. So to start with, like I was asked by Krishna ma'am, that I have a small PPT. It's very candid. I just put it together in very little time. So I would want to share my screen and go through that small 5-pager PPT to be precise. So I put this PPT up. I'm usually not very used to being called by any sort of salutation except for my first name, that is Joy. I mean, people find it very short, simple, and crisp, like it is usually said in the communication circle. So I just wanted to put forth my very anecdotal experience. I mean, this would also have a little bit of my frustration and workload that usually you are put through being a part of the system. And so I named this as a PPT on common sense and clarity, which each student, each communicator right now, I mean, in making will have this. So that is what I was trying to say, that attributes that a communication specialist, I'm called that. Somewhere people are called officers, somewhere people are called experts, genius. When you guys come into the field, you might call yourself communication ninjas, has to have while dealing with governments. So yeah, so I just wanted to put it, I wanted to go through very basic steps as to why governments communicate. So if you see, what is government? Government is something which is a group of people who control and make decisions for a country, state, nation, or whatever you call them. The power of these governments is legitimized by various mechanisms. It can be hereditary. Say, for example, you have kings ruling countries one after the other. It can be coercion. There could be a military rule which comes through power. It could be through divinity. There are theocratic states which rule on the basis of divine principles. Or the best form like ours could be democracy, where the power to the government is legitimized through the faith of the people, of the citizens who attend them. So one thing in most, I mean, which is common in government, is that they function and they derive their power from laid down, written, codified rules and regulations. These are their source of authority. I would not use the word power here because I'm being very careful about not using the word power, because the authority is legitimized by the power of the people, the citizen who have given them that. So ours is legitimized through the constitutional provisions, parliamentary laws, executive orders, and these parliamentary laws are formulated by our representative who we elect, who we vote to power, who actually represent our will at a larger state. The government in India primarily is understood as a elected representative in parliament and legislative bodies in the states, handling various portfolios given to them. And they're called ministers for convenience, with officers, officials, experts, they're called bureaucrats. So they basically carry out welfare functions and other things, and they run the whole country. So if you say, why do they have to communicate? Because like I put it on the slide, the system is made of the citizens, because each of your ministry is headed by a citizen and each person working there is a citizen. If you see, every bureaucrat's salary, every minister's payment, every scheme's money comes from the citizens. It comes from your pockets, your parents' pockets, your and mine pockets. Hence, it is answerable to the citizens. Yes, I did it. I did take this quote and try to reframe it from, like, I'm trying to be funny, but I don't think it is. Like usually in government papers, you have a thing of writing Shri and G after names. So it was a famous quote given by Abraham Lincoln. So yeah, so once as a communication specialist, I haven't really given a 2-subject exam to get into the system. I probably have been chose through my years of experience on the ground, trying to learn way more things than just 2 subjects. I mean, usually if you prepare for civils, you have to by heart and be thorough with a few subjects and a few general general knowledge. However, when you are a subject matter specialist, you have to labor it out. I have worked on ground learning new things and new facets of communication each day. So there is one thing, if you are in the system, you do not have cushions to bear with. Government hires you because they somewhere feel that there is something missing in their system which they are not able to fulfill. That's why you are hired as a consultant. You are hired at a higher premium. They pay you a higher cost. The opportunity cost that they pay is for your experience and the labor that you can put in. So you cannot really expect to enjoy the 9 to 5 luxury of a cushy sarkari job. You'll have to slog it out. There, and I'm sorry to say, working with government is one of the most toughest. I would not make a comparison here, but I have worked both on the corporate and the government side, and I would say working with the government is way more challenging, way more crucial, and way more tactical while you deal with it. So some of the things, like, I wanted to make it clear to you guys, if you are planning to get into this sector, is that you will have to use very simple techniques of your common sense and your ability to see the obvious. Don't look beyond, see the obvious. So the bureaucracy would want you to hear them. See, we all love hearing our own voice. Over a period of time, as a communication specialist, you will be working with very highly placed bureaucrats. A minimum bureaucrat that you would be working would be a joint secretary in the ministry who has put in at least 35 years of work on the ground, as an IS officer, IRS officer, or any allied services officer. You would want to hear their ideas out, hear them out fully, infer it. You need to properly understand what they're trying to say, take down notes, record their voices. Then you will have to use your skills of communication that you have learned from your able teachers in the institute who have taught you what communication is about. So you need to induce it, deduce it, and create a cogent theory as to what basically they are looking at. And then comes the delivery part, which has to be quick. I'm sorry, it's a little different from academic research or academic outputs, is that government needs it immediately. They look for outputs. Maybe agar aaj aaya hai, they would look for the output sham tak de do. So they have a whole idea of ye karke de do. There is a famous quote of saying karke de do. So delivery is very important. So always focus at finishing your work with 100% commitment, with 100% finesse, but at the same time, convince your heart that you have a space for feedbacks. So you have to pick up pace. And yes, like I said, government actually pays a premium to hire specialists because that's the opportunity cost that they pay for not having people with that skill set. And of course, a good pay keeps you happy. You can travel to the hills. If you are a hill person, you can travel to the hills every 2 months. You can go to the beaches and remain happy or do whatever you like. So are there any shortcuts to being that ninja? Yes, there are probably a few. Some of them would start with common sense. Very common, but not so common. We usually undermine the role of common sense. Looking at obvious. We try to, it's good to problematize and build around things, but in government, I have realized one thing is simplifying is the key. It's open and shut. Your skills would come into play if you can simplify the most critical issues with tangible outputs. Let me be clear on this. I'm trying to use big words and confusing sentences. Is that use common sense, relate it to your daily lives, and come up with ideas and solutions relating to it. clarity. I might be the most unclear person when it comes to personal life, but when it comes to work, I know I get paid for it. So I'm clear as to what I'm delivering. The person needs A, I'll deliver A option 1, A option 2. I will not give that person too many options or places to come up with ideas. So you have to be clear as to what you are delivering. Also, we are ninjas, right? I mean, when you are communication with the government, you are not the faces. Not even the secretary of a ministry, the topmost bureaucrat is the face. It's the political bosses who are actually the faces, and you can't beat them in your oratory skills. They are brilliant in speaking. So the skills that you can master is writing. You can write, start thinking the way you write. I mean, you should start enjoying and smiling when you write, or emoting when you write. So feel it. I mean, it's a very easy technique to write. Just start with writing 100 words each day. Read, write. And in a month's time, I think you can write a column of 5,000 words with no difficulty. I mean, as soon as you are asked कि इस पर कुछ दे दो, इस पे एक write up दे दो, मंत्री जी मांगे हैं, कैबिनेट मांगा है, नीति आयोग has asked for it, PMO has asked for it. So you can write it in like 20 minutes. So that's what. And also I have seen, it has personally helped me. I have been a researcher all my life. So I usually deep dive. I think every journalist or every communication person is a researcher inherently, because we have a tendency of understanding facts and linking it together and building a concept around it. So you have to have certain amount of research skills, whereby anything you are justifying will have a reason, will have a logic, will have a pattern to why you are stating that fact. And also the new concept of design thinking is come in, which is basically you think in a line, you initiate something linked to an outcome. And also you have to know that it's okay to not know. I do not know spellings these days, guys. I mean, I really do not know how to spell things. I use my devices. I think it's an extension of who I am. And I usually carry my phone on silent everywhere, a large screen phone, so that the words that they say, I immediately Google. And I think that's the power of me. I know how to use my handheld devices to give solutions at a go. That makes me needed by them, because at some level, the other person is busy working in a different field of expertise. I get the information to that person immediately. Is it fun working with the ministry? Well, it depends on what you really are looking for in life. If you like seeing change at scale, I have done goof ups, to be very honest. While I was with National Rural Livelihood Missions, I have done things like, just for the heck of it, made people make a human chain across India. So it gives you that carnal pleasure of, well, a single line can actually bring about large changes. And also, if you are a good person at heart, you can actually see things changing on ground. Also, you need to know that bureaucracy is a system which has sustained for over 70 years. People have worked in certain silos and certain systems which is ingrained in them. So it becomes a lot difficult, and you will have to find ways to mitigate, navigate, convince to get a small thing done. I mean, it could be as small as including some people into some ambit of a scheme or something, which would be in like huge numbers. But how do you convince it? And it would take levels of approval to get that job done. So that's there. And also, I would say that if you work hard, the bureaucracy rewards you. So, for example, I would work incessantly for hours together. In return, they would reward me with some things that I really wanted to do with a scheme, or maybe a component of it, or maybe an idea to be thrown around. Also, you need to be a firm believer. See, ideologies are good. Politics is important. We live in a democracy. but also you should be open to the fact that there are multiple realities and multiple expressions, and actually existing together and finding a way is the beauty of, surviving in a nation like ours. And also, governments are judicious paymasters. They will not pay you very high like the corporates might do based on your skills, but they would not pay you low that would make it difficult for you to live. So if governments know that your skill is needed, they usually have comparisons of how schemes are built. So I'll just give you an example. I have been a part, so you have to work throughout. So I have been a part of making scheme documents for various schemes. And so now that we realize that the ministry does not have team members, we are making project management unit with experts. So the pay is actually compared with precedences in different ministries. Then we draw an average. Then we look at the cost of living and the seventh pay commission, the grade pay of government, and an average is struck and the pays are decided. And they aren't that bad. Trust me, they're really not as good as corporate, but they are good. They're in line with the seventh pay commission reports that government takes, and they take care of their employees. And also, if you plan to pursue higher academics, which I dream of doing, I'm a PhD. After my coursework, I'm a dropout because I did not find the kind of idea that I wanted to dwell upon. I'm planning to go ahead for my PhD, but in a few years now. So yeah, so a letter of recommendation from a joint secretary or a secretary level person or an advisor from any ministry does help you get funds, foreign funds. They help you do things. And if you are a workaholic, so like I keep telling my friends and my family that since day one, be it having studied from TISS, work was my ecosystem. I lived work, I laughed work, I enjoyed work. To me, my life would have been around loving my job and work. So if you love working, I guess working with the government or working anywhere is the way. Also, thank you so much for listening to this PPT out. And I don't think I took too much time because I wanted to keep this an interactive session, and I wanted to engage with people out here and maybe build my knowledge and answer to theirs. So if possible, Dr. Bora, can we open up the room for question answers now?
Thank you, sir, for such a delightful session. I'm sure our students must have learned a lot from the session. They have sent in a few questions. Student is asking, please explain the process of being hired as a communication specialist and how many years of experience is required to be hired.
Should I answer this?
Yes, please.
So I'll tell you my case. I had a few chances of getting hired. I got hired by the World Bank. So I went, I was zealous then, and I went doing some motorcycle diaries in the hinterlands of Bihar. So that was my first shot at being hired by a multilateral. The pays are much better at multilateral and doing stories of government work. So I got noticed from that point onwards. So I would go on a bike into the most hinterlands of Bihar and make stories. And so it was a complete showcasing your work. So you should always remember you need to blow your own trumpet. So if you do things discreetly, people would not know what you exactly did. So I was very particular about doing things which actually created a show. I love being the center of attraction. I loved it. So I have seen in my case, it took a little longer because I was a development sector professional as well as a researcher. So it took me time. But however, my friends from IIMC, they already are part of various governments as media advisors, as PR personals with the Delhi government and various governments. I think it's just that knack of writing and maybe helping a government come up. It will take you hardly, I think if you have the knack in you, it would not take a long time. However, they would look for people with a lot of dedication. And also, I would tell you something very interesting is that this time when we were designing scheme documents, so the secretary was of the opinion that he said कि यार experiences कम करो, 5 साल कर दो, 3 साल कर दो. Also say that freshers with exceptional skills can be taken for the same jobs which required at least a decade or more experience, because they say we need people with skills and the ability to be on their toes. So if you are a person who's ready to work hard, I think people hire you. I mean, that's what I believe strongly.
So can you also highlight about the different profiles in media related government jobs?
So this is a very interesting part. So I very categorically chose to be away from the political PR, which is usually, I mean, political public relation. I tried getting into the bureaucratic public relation and media relations. So I look at the image of the ministry as an institution rather than, of course, the honorable minister is the head of it. So, but then I'm not a part of his PR team or her PR team. I'm a part of the ministry's image building measures, the welfare schemes that it takes up. So it's a very different ball game. I mean, it's easier to justify a person who's a public figure than an institutional body which is under constant scrutiny because it's a public funded institution. So I basically also help each CPIO, I mean the public information officers, in drafting right to information so that the information sought is devolved in a manner which is catered to the people. I take care also of the parliamentary questions because I've seen parliament plays a very important role and ministry takes very high cognizance of what the elected members of this nation ask. Also, I mean, as my job entails, I have to prepare the responses to the standing committees, various standing committees, which this ministry currently is answerable to. Say, for example, the Standing Committee for Social Justice and Empowerment, because the whole ministry is answerable to the elected representative. So I chose a different line. I wanted to learn the institutional part of how you can be a communicator, which is, I mean, I would say a little more thrashing, because when you do it for a public figure, that person is a very smart orator and can navigate through. But when you think about me, I work with silent bureaucrats who hardly have spoken all their lives. They are all paper tigers. They know their rules and regulations quite well. But when it comes to talking out, they require our support. Yeah.
We have another question from one of our faculty members, Mr. Pramod Pandey. He's asking that the field of strategic communication rests heavily on the art of staying relevant and that too in a creative fashion. As a communication expert, how do you approach the assignment when you are asked to think of a PR campaign? If you could break it down into smaller parts for the students to be able to understand in terms of the steps, then it might be helpful.
See, I can act cool and say it all, but then, however, every ministry, say, for example, I have 2 agencies with proper trained people. Like, I mean, I guess most of their team must be as old as the students out here. There's PwC and Ernst & Young, which support me in my strategic communication and the tactical needs that arise of the day-to-day engagements. So yes, being relevant, I would say that use your common sense. I mean, that is what I'm trying to stress a lot, that having your common sense to deal with common issues every day really does help. And we as a I mean, we people with words tend to complicate things, which actually makes it difficult to reach two nodes. I mean, a communicator's job is to explain things from A to B, right? I mean, like Sir said at the beginning. So my strategic approach is to bring in what the ministry wants, what is the need of the hour, simplify it and present it, and make it look as honest as possible. I mean, there are layers to it. Of course, we deploy a lot of critical thinking and ideas into it. But then, yes, I mean, to simplify it, common sense and clarity are the two key strategies of any strategic communication that is deployed by any agency, I guess. I mean, to make it complicated as a consultant, I can draw a few circles, a few arrows left, right, and center, make it phased, stratified, and other things. However, to hit the nail and with the young students, to make it clear, it's just common sense and clarity.
So you said about tolerating difference in opinion. If an individual has a different creative opinion, how would they go about making it heard and taking it into consideration?
Creative opinions are always welcome. See, I mean, I guess each student here trying to, I mean, to be very honest, there is a creative generation gap between them and us. So, but then and their parents also, they have mitigated it quite well. This generation is way more resilient and capable of dealing with differences of creative opinions or any sort of opinions, because they deal with it in their families each day, their relatives, their friends. So that's how it is. And also you need to know that if you're committed to your work, it's your job. At the end of the day, it's your duty. And if you really love it, you will do it. I mean, whatsoever. Otherwise, activism is not a part of the work that you're doing. I mean, activism is beautiful, but it's a completely different ball game. I mean, if you want to be a creative activist, it's brilliant. But right now, I have a client to cater to. And as a person, it's my dharam. It's my utmost duty, and my skills to be shown is to serve the client and make them happy and justify it.
Today's government is too much into communication, and they keep coming up with new schemes and new ideas. So how do communication specialists cope up with the needs and wants of the government requirements? And also, how do the government handle communication goof ups that hamper their image?
So I'll tell you an anecdote. I mean, it's a closed room. So I will say I have myself done human mistakes. And I would just say it's a slip. I am human. I'm bound to make mistakes. I have slips. I could have Freudian slips. I could have clerical slips. I could do a lot of goof ups. So I would take it up with a lot of grace, saying that galti ho gaya, isko sahi sudhar lete hain. And also you need to know that the government is way more tolerant than the corporate. And also you need to know that we as a country are very forgiving than what we actually imagine we are not to be. So, and yes, and you should also, I mean, each student should make it this thing that as the generation moves ahead and technology is integrated, communication specialists become way more important to this ministry. I mean, any ministry, because the public image that is created is what is the work done. So, I mean, your role is becoming important each day. So that's how it is. I mean, goof ups happen, you admit it and move on. I think there are many examples of such goof ups. I mean, I could be a reason of many goof ups, which you guys even do not know. I think you must be abusing someone else for it, but I could have been the person in a bad mood who did that.
Okay. So is it possible to approach organizations like United Nations or any multilateral organizations for employment directly And can we work with specific departments of the IB ministry or for any particular schemes of governance?
While I was a part of a UN body some time back, we did reach out to students because all of them require, I mean, like they say, the documenting success stories, portraying of objective truths from the ground, depicting successes of the projects and schemes done. So most of these organizations are willing to do it, and in different forms, be it a motion picture, be it writings, all of them do it. I mean, sometimes they call it junkets, but then I have been involved in channelizing junkets with various agencies. But I think as an institution, you can always approach bodies like UN and World Bank. They would be more than happy to deploy young minds, but you should be very careful of what they are afraid of. They work with the present day government. As communicators, it's very important for us. I mean, I'm not saying that we should not have an opinion, but as communicators, for us is to rise over the opinion and know what is our output that we are looking at. We will report objectively, but without our biases. We can, of course, have our opinion pieces. We can write at any place. I might agree to the modern day government or I may not. But when I'm doing something, I will ensure that I do it objectively. My biases would not come into being. So, of course, as an institution, you can reach out to UN body, World Bank. I think there are a lot of work that they have done on ground. BMGF, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is in India, and Azim Premji guys are here. So all of these people require people to go and talk things about them. I mean, be it good or be it bad. They will, of course, take you to places which are good only. So they want people. So if proper communication is built with these people and they understand the need of it, I think that should not be an issue. I survived freelancing for a while, just doing stories on the ground for these multilaterals, and they're quite well paying. I mean, so I said there's a lot of scope.
So, sir, there's one more question from a student. How do you use social media as a tool of communication strategy or government communication?
Social media, that's the most powerful and the most controversial and the most feared to a bureaucrat, because you need to know bureaucrats are unseen people. So, but then there is a guideline which says that every ministry has to maintain a social media. So then you start, because it has a real-time feedback. People react to it immediately, and you can gauge the mood of the population. So you have to be very thoughtful while what you are doing. Do you need that blue tick? You don't need that blue tick. If you get it, how do you handle it? So social media is the buzzword today. And I keep saying that I reach out to, so I used to take classes in KIT University. So I would reach out to my students and ask them, hey, listen, how do I manage this? I mean, people are abusing us on this scheme. They would say, sir, comments ko disable kar do. Nobody will even notice. Just disable it for some time. Then people will actually forget the shelf life and enable it in a week's time. So there are such tactical measures we actually take to deal with it. And social media is one of the most powerful mediums today, which has actually brought citizen journalism and activism to forefront, and we cannot really undermine it.
We have one last question. Government jobs have greater job security. How much truth is there in that statement? Does it matter as much as work satisfaction?
See, I look at work to be fun. I mean, now I would sound like most students here. I get bored with things really fast. Doing something for a prolonged time actually starts wearing my head up. It becomes a monotonous routine. So I would want that, I mean, the newness in it. I mean, I would want something, the spark in it to come. If you are a person who's looking at a nice 9 to 5, and of course, government jobs are important. And you never know, a bureaucratic reform can come, a government reform can come, and the systems might change in the near future as well. So it is nice. It is good for people who like it. But a person like me, I would say I want newness. So I have been shifting from research to government consultings to doing other things. So if you are a person with not a stable mind like mine, and I'm being very candid and honest out here, I think it's more about the work satisfaction that you are looking for. I'm in a daily going to office 9 to 5 doing the same kind of work might get you a little worn out over a period of time. So yeah, I mean, it's good for people who like it, who want to do something else. They should try something else.
Mr. Joy, since these are the students of the final year mostly, and obviously they are looking for the opening, they might be thinking as to what to do after getting their graduation degree. So can you tell me more precisely, like, as mostly we know that the opening is in the government sector could be through ISLIs or could be through the Group B officers, which are the routine thing. But beyond that, if somebody wants to enter the government communication, like as you are working as a communication specialist, so what is the way out? How they should move, getting any such thing in the government?
So, I mean, because when sir asks, I get a little nervous. I mean, so, but then, yeah. So I would say that there are two answers to it, sir. One for you is, I think they should reach out to multilateral bodies such as UN specific verticals. Say, for example, if it's nutrition, you can reach out to people in the nutrition vertical, child protection. World Bank has the same model. Then they place youngsters into the ministry and government, because government has a huge criteria of experience. But then if you really want it, I mean, I have answered sir. Now I would answer my way. I would want to answer the students is that get into your field. I mean, get known in it. I mean, do what you are good at. I mean, it doesn't need that. There are people who may not be good at writing. They could be just thinkers. There could be people who are into graphic designing. So governments and agencies have these technical support units with multilaterals today who are actually hiring people with certain skill sets. And once you are on the ground, I think the anxiety is obvious that, I mean, that so far so good, what next? I have that same feeling every day. So I think unless you burn your fingers, you would not learn that how hot the sector is. So jump into it, you will find your way and liking. I mean, government may seem very fancy, corporate may seem very fancy, but it just might not be your thing. Say, for example, I went into things which I did not like. Over a period of time, I just kept sulking and I wasn't doing justice to the work that was at hand as well. So I think it's good to be anxious. I mean, being anxious is a feeling to keep you protected. There's a positive to it also. So feel the way you guys are feeling right now. The heat is on. You are going to hit the market. I mean, the real work life. I mean, I would say it's not as bad, but trust me, it's bad enough to grill you as well. So, yeah.
Sir, actually, I have one more last question from mine. Where do you draw the line between your own personal principles or your beliefs and your obligations to your job?
I took a deep breath to it. So, yeah. So there have been situations where you have to actually learn to breathe deep. And then many times, because at times what happens is, yes, I am a person. I am a product of my socialization and my peer and my company and the kind of people I have grown up with. I have got very strong feeling. I have worked as an activist. You know how activists think, like, and how reactive and how we can use words. I mean, the rambunctious words that we can use to judge people and judge systems. But then when you're hearing something you say that it's a set of skills that I need to imbibe currently. And I have a clientage. I have vowed my services to that person. Also, I feel, and the next thing I tell myself is that, okay, I am very important to myself, but I'm not the center of the universe. So my thoughts can also wait. And maybe there is a reality beyond my thoughts. I mean, it's just perceived, right? I mean, there could be some sense in the other person's thought as well. I mean, that's how, I mean, judicious people, I would not use wise, I would use more civilizations and human beings should, I mean, giving space to each other. So yeah, so that's how I draw my line. I take a deep breath and then I'm like, okay, let me hear it out. Maybe I'll go and talk about it to a few of my friends and like crib about it and usually break my head around it. But then, yeah. So you need to draw a balance. Also the paycheck, that's very important. It pays for all my shenanigans, like I would want to put, is also important. Survival over ideology for a person like me is crucial. So yeah, that's how it works.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for answering these questions. And that's it from my end. Over to you, Yashika, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'd like to invite Dr. Sushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, to say a few words.
Thank you, Yashika. Hello, everyone present here. Actually, we know a lot about mainstream media. We know a lot of digital media, but we have little understanding about government communication. Mr. Joy has done this task for our students. He has opened a new area for our students. Thank you, Mr. Joy. Thanks a lot. I hope students will make use of all that information provided, Mr. Joy. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'd like to invite Ms. Krishna Pandey, Convener Training and Placement Cell, DME Media School, to extend the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Yashika. It has been a pleasure to have you, Joy, with us today. And thank you for taking out your valuable time and sharing your thoughts and experience with our students. You have been very forthright, especially with your experiences with the government sector. I'm sure students would have learned a lot from you and they may start preparing to be a part of government sector. I also thank Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, and Dr. Sushmita Bala, Head DME Media School, for allowing us to conduct this session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And I wish to thank Anmol sir, Sumantra sir, Dr. Tinam Bora, and Sachin sir for all their background and technical support. Above all, I also thank all the students who participated in this session. And of course, thank you so much, Yashika, and thank you all.
I would like to thank everyone for joining us in this session. The feedback form has been shared in the chat box. Please fill it in for the certificates. Please note that the fourth session of Development Program for Students, DPS 2021, will start from 3 p.m. The guest for the session is Mr. Hemant Kaushik, Associate Editor, News Nation Channel, who will speak on the topic TV News in the backdrop of the pandemic during 2020 and 2021. All of you are requested to join the session on time. Thank you for joining us.
DME has embraced digital paradigm shift by adopting technology-based learning.
Unlike other colleges, we adopted a two-step strategy. In step 1, teachers would be preparing the videos, students would be watching them. In step 2, the student would be coming to the tutorial, clarifying the doubts, making the presentations, and discuss with the teacher.
At DME, we have invested in the best in the class academic ERP, which allows us to have a 360-degree robust communication amongst all the stakeholders, students and faculty members.
DME's virtual learning mechanism is no less than real-time classroom teaching,
wherein the students are provided the pool of e-learning resources in the form of PPTs, video lectures and online classes in a very student-friendly environment.
There is no need of mental blocks. Online teaching is as effective and interesting as offline teaching. Let the students enjoy this new mode of education.
In DME, we believe in quality education. We take care of our students. We want to see them happy.
Mental and emotional health are one of the most challenging issues of present times. DME Mentoring Cell takes care of that. Not just this, we go beyond academic curriculum to instill the most important employability skills in our students.